voice screamed from the distance, and my head whipped into their direction. I had been enjoying my summer, lounging on the golden beaches, staring into the horizon as my bronzed brown skin glowed under the sunlight, far away from the water, very far away from the water. I had vowed last year, after almost drowning at the state swimming championships, that I was not going near water again. I couldn't. My heart raced just thinking about it. But here I was, in the middle of my summer holiday, watching a woman drown. Surely I couldn't be that heartless as to place my childish vow over her dire need for help. Surely I wouldn't let her drown. I stared at my feet, waiting them to move, begging them to answer as the woman's loud screams filled my ears. Why was no one helping her? I had to do this. I pulled my feet off the ground, running as fast as I could go, sand particles flying up in the air as I moved, but I was not bothered. Saving her was all I could think of. Within seconds, I was in the salty water, my legs kicking, arms swinging, mind racing as I attempted to reach her. Finally, I felt her body coming to my touch, and I wrapped my arms around her torso, pushing hard against the waves. I pulled her back to the surface and onto the shore. She was alive.
The lady who never gave up. Cynthia was strolling down the lovely street she lived on when a red car pulled over beside her. The passenger jumped out of the car and immediately grabbed the young lady by her neck, pointing a knife to it. Cynthia was bundled into the car, which sped off in a daredevil manner. It was a long and painful drive on a long and bumpy road. Throughout the scary journey, Cynthia's mind went through a range of thoughts. Suddenly, the car took a sharp right turn into a street that had bushes and uncompleted buildings on both sides. The driver then drove into an abandoned building and stopped. He hastily tied Cynthia's legs, taped her mouth, and carried her quickly into a secluded area of the building. As he was carrying her, he sternly warned, "If you try anything funny, you will be wasted." Her captors were rapists. She saw so many other girls tied up, some already assaulted. Scared as she was, Cynthia decided she had to plan an escape. There's always a way out, she told herself. After about 12 hours in her captor's den, Cynthia got the moment she was waiting for. The only guard watching over them temporarily dozed off. Cynthia braced up, took the knife by his side and cut loose the rope on her legs and that of the girl beside her. The two of them tiptoed out of the room, scaled the window, and took to their heels. Thank you.
It was there, on my bathroom floor, the pitch-black bunny with beady red eyes. Heck, how did a bunny get into my bathroom? I muttered. And poof, it was gone. I'd earlier learned that albinism causes red eyes in rabbits. I'd always loved white rabbits, but black bunnies and with red eyes? No. The next day, I found the same bunny on our lawn. It was insanely creepy. Then it disappeared again. Afterwards, it would appear everywhere. The kitchen, the living room. Once it appeared in our garage while Dad was driving me to school. I stared at it through my car's rear windscreen. I loved staring at it, but didn't have the courage to touch it. Then I decided I'd summon up the courage and I touched it. And even holding it appeared again. A few days later, it appeared again in my bedroom. I got up and gently walked up to it, determined to touch it and hold it in my arms. I wasn't sure if it belonged to be touched. Very close to it, I let my hand journey towards it. When my hand landed on its soft, fuzzy fur, my face lit up with joy. As I tried to lift it, it transformed into a huge lion. Ah! I screamed in terror. Kate! Mom shook me vigorously, and by the time my eyes opened, I was covered in sweat, though the air conditioning in my room was on.
It was a very chilly dawn. The stars dimly lit the sky, and the moon was gradually going out of sight. Kiki felt stuck in the cramped car with her mother and brother. There was a deafening silence between them, for they had just had a heated argument, something about taking a swim. They arrived at their destination, a public swimming pool, and Kiki sluggishly walked down the cold pavement floor. Staring at the water, she thought the waves looked like the teeth of an alligator. This heightened her fear, and she began to shiver. The coach instructed her to take a dive into the 20 feet deep pool. Has she gone mad? Does she not know how deep 20 feet is? Kiki thought. She was still contemplating when her kid brother Dairo flew past her and dropped headlong into the deepest end of the pool, causing a mighty splash which drenched his bewildered sister. Kiki felt even more discouraged at the mere thought of little Dairo in the water, while she could not dare. She suddenly remembered her mother's watchwords. Never judge yourself based on the abilities of others. Slowly, she closed her eyes and jumped. She went deep, deep, deep into the water, her feet almost touching the floor of the pool. Then, suddenly, she was propelled up by what seemed like a natural force, and she began to float. She let herself go along with all of her fears. Thank you.
What brings you here, Miss Davis? The reporter asked. I'm here to make a statement, I replied nervously, for I knew the moment I left the building, I would be gone. My father, Mr. Ola Davis, is a liar. As governor, he has embezzled our government funds, hoarded palliatives, rigged the second election because he was well aware no one would vote for him. He mercilessly took out potential opponents. I said in one heavy breath. The reporter, obviously startled by my revelation, had to clear his throat before replying. And why have you decided to reveal this information to the world? His question drowned my imagination and made me wonder if telling the truth was the wisest option. Although I had a father, I confessed. He's not only an invader, but also a child molester, an unfaithful husband, and a conniving father. I have had enough of his mind games. That's why I came. After the interview, I was ushered out of the building as a flock of paparazzi swore at me. Courage to them was betrayal. I reached my car and drove straight off to my father's mansion. I was greeted with the sight of multiple policemen gathered, and my screaming father led to a car. Great, I gave you everything, he yelled at me. Walking into the house, I felt another kind of freedom. Began to sink in as I felt my senses fall apart. Slowly, it all turned black and empty. Thank you.
Stella wiped the sweat off her forehead. At that moment, she was in the storage room of Agnes Hospital with 7 patients. They were hiding from terrorists who attacked the hospital, and she knew she needed to help. Her main priority was her patient's safety. Stella crawled into the pediatric ward. Though she knew how risky that was, she didn't give in to fear. In the pediatric ward, she gathered everyone and did a head count. The children looked gloomy while she counted twice again. Suddenly, a boy whispered, Amy. They took Amy. She took a deep breath and quietly tiptoed into the maternity ward. She spotted the young asthmatic patient sitting on a chair between 2 heavily armed men. To distract them, Stella banged a steel tray on the floor in the psychiatric ward, and when she ascertained their uneasiness, she injected one of the terrorists with an intoxicating serum which made him pass out immediately. Stella grabbed the unconscious terrorist's gun and braced herself for the next as the second terrorist's attention was drawn to the loud crash of his partner. He charged towards her and hit her hard on the face. On instinct, she hit his abdomen and head with the edge of a gun. She saved his lives, not end them. Quickly, she untied Amy and together with the rest of the patients, escaped. 2 days later, she was rewarded for her bravery with an award for portraying her great courage and dauntless skills.
Marty, a 16-year-old boy, was walking home from school when he saw a boy being bullied. He avoided getting involved because he was too scared. Marty was known in the school as being somewhat of a coward. He never stood up for himself or others, including friends. Even students younger than him were able to bully him because he would not stand up for himself. The next day, as Marty was leaving class, Jackson, a bully, Jackson, a bully, caught up to him and asked him to give him his money. As Marty was trying to stand up for himself, he thought of something and instantly gave in. However, Carl, who used to be Jackson's friend, stepped in and told Jack to back off, leave Marty alone. Carl felt bad for Marty and decided to help him gain some courage. But no matter how hard he tried, Marty always seemed to give in. He asked why he was so scared of everything. After a few months of silence, Marty finally answered the question by saying, "When I was 10, my parents were killed in a robbery. Before my mother was shot, she told me to run. So I did. Ever since, I never stood up for myself." After sharing his story, Marty was able to let go of his grief and fear and finally started standing up.